My name is Justin Leon. I'm 23 and I live in Midland Beach.
My name is Lisa Wallace. I am 57 years old and I am a retired New York City Transit manager.
I'm Joseph Volpe. I'm 23 years old. I live around the Midland area. Some might say that's North Shore, some might say that's South Shore. I specifically say Midland.
Hi, my name is Chris Palmer. Currently work in Brooklyn. I'm 38 years old.
My name is Robert Oldham. I live in Westerly. I'm 74 years old and I am retired.
My name is Desiree Caserta. I am 43 years old. I am a hairdresser, part-time. I am also an educator in a beauty school here on Staten Island, and I'm an administrator as well in the beauty school.
I live in Staten Island.
I live in Staten Island.
I currently live in Staten Island.
I grew up in Mariners Harbor. My family's been on Staten Island since my grandparents came to New York City in 1923. I used to be able to walk from where Kohl's and Lowe's is now all the way out to the mall and through the woods. You used to be able to go hunting. The wildlife refuge that there on Travis Avenue, that's where we would go hunting. I went to IS 72, which is near the mall, back in the 70s to build the IS 72. Part of the agreement was when they got it, that they got government money to bus in urban kids from Mariners Harbor to go to 72, because that area in Heartland Village, that was all new. They marketed it to the families coming from Brooklyn. Majority of those families there were from Brooklyn. There are so many places on Staten Island, even on the South Shore, where there is very little land left that is undeveloped.
I lived in Brooklyn, Park Slope. And then my family members, my sisters, they lived here all on Staten Island. When I got married, we figured we'd buy a house. And we got this house that we're living in now for 40 years. For the first 8 weeks, I wasn't that happy because I went to the restaurants in Park Slope. I went to this bar with all my friends all the time to hang out and have a couple of beers. And I sat outside here and nobody walked by. But after about 4 months, I got used to it. The neighbors used to congregate more. They'd be talking outside. They would sit outside more. I don't see that much in the last 15 years.
I've been in pretty much Sunnyside or Castle Corners. I'm from a different generation, the mid-'80s, early 90s. There were honestly more options as far as Staten Island, the more expansive movie theaters. They're building more movie theaters now, but there was a good lag between 10, 15 years where it was pretty much just the Regal on Forest. I do not go to Staten Island Mall anymore. I think the mall kind of really went downhill after they did the remodel, and now looks pretty much like a Jersey mall now. It's kind of off-putting to the mall that I grew up with.
It's convenient. It's all I know. I'm very much so a creature of habit. I could ride my bike across Highland Boulevard and do all these things. And now times have changed. It's not that way anymore. And as I got older, safety's been an issue. Crime has gone up quite significantly. I have 2 small children. If they're going outside, I need to go with them. I love going to the beach. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's dirty or this or that. I've been going to the beach since I was a kid. There's a lot more people here now, businesses, a lot more houses. Houses are on top of each other. Where I grew up, there was a big field. And now that field is now a church. And across the street was another field. And now there's a bunch of townhouses. It used to be more so suburban in a sense. You had your places to go eat, and Highland Boulevard was always Highland Boulevard. But, you could walk the railroad with a bunch of your friends and there wasn't a problem. You walked and there was a playground somewhere, and you made the best of it with whatever you had.
I think of the North Shore near the ferry, cut the island in half, and I guess around Miller Field around or near there is where north would be North Shore, south would be South Shore.
The majority of restaurants are on the South Shore. The majority of things to do are on the South Shore. It's almost like a whole different world in a sense. For me to go somewhere, I got to go, everything is on South Shore. North Shore people, I feel are very much more real We speak how we feel. We don't hold back. South Shore, you have more of that phoniness. It's not every woman, but a lot of women from the South Shore, they're very bougie. The kids, as they get older, a sense of entitlement is like almost sickening. If you take a teenage kid from the South Shore with a teenage kid from the North Shore, it's just two totally different attitudes. I feel like kids from the North Shore have the attitude that they have because they just don't have the opportunities that they want or the opportunities that they need. And unfortunately, financially and economically, parents just can't give their kids that. I don't know why South Shore is getting the better schools and the better teachers and the better principals.
I would say North Shore is more connected to the rest of the city than anybody else, as in we're closer to Brooklyn and Queens or right near the Verrazano Bridge. And when it comes to the South Shore, it's a lot more Jersey connected. People that tend to grow up in the South Shore tend to move off more to Jersey more. There's more mansions. There's more money coming out involved. The majority of the Trump supporters in Staten Island, large of them are coming from the South Shore.
I would say that North Shore is a little more crowded than the South Shore is. South Shore is a bit more spread out. There's more trees involved, parks. I'd say it's a tad more family friendly, but the North Shore is definitely more diverse. Obviously, every neighborhood has its ups and downs. So it depends on where you live and who you live with to determine what part of the area you think is bad, what part of the area you think is good.
I feel like a lot goes more to one side than to the other side. I feel like a lot of people say like Staten Island's a forgotten about borough all the time.
I've had a lot of people that I've met throughout the course of my life. And I'll see them in some random place and then I'll say, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from New York. Oh, okay. What part of New York are you from? I'm from Staten Island. What's Staten Island? You never heard of Staten Island? No, I know Brooklyn, I know Queens, I know Manhattan, I know the Bronx. It gets a bad rep because pretty much they say, well, you guys are more Jersey, but Staten Island relates more to New York than it would to Jersey at any given point. When it comes down to it, I honestly just think that Staten Island gets that label because people don't cross that bridge ever so often. Like, there's no reason specifically to come to Staten Island unless you already have family here, and I can understand that.
I love my home. We have everything one could possibly need or want right here.
It all depends on what you're looking for. If you need a performing theater, we have the St. George Theater. While the Staten Island Yankees may have went away, we still have the new Staten Island team that took over the ball field.
It's documented. Staten Island has the longest commute in the nation. There's a tunnel that was started back in 1925. It was supposed to be an underriver rail tunnel that connected to the R line at 59th Street that would connect Staten Island to Brooklyn. But it was never completed. When they built the stadium down in St. George, why wasn't that stadium marketed better? All of this are things that Staten Island needs and which would make Staten Island more attractive to the rest of the city to get other businesses to invest here, because that's always been the knock on Staten Island. Staten Island is very different from the rest of the city because Staten Island is very clannish. And when I say clannish, I mean in the respect that people will want to know who your family is and who you associate with, and then they will judge you based on that.
Everyone honestly knows everyone on this island, but it still kind of brings back the fact that it's like one big family. Sometimes certain neighborhoods will do fundraisers or block parties or something to help sort of the future generations of kids that live on the island.
I love it here. I have no plans on leaving.
I grew up basically with ignorance is bliss as my motto, so I didn't really see as much as I do now with it, but I honestly still prefer to grow up in this borough besides the other ones.